big difference. That is a big difference. And that is a huge difference between, again, insurance-based, which is congruent with a traditional model, and cash-based, which is really congruent with a boutique model. I need to tell you something, and it might sting a little bit. If you're a nurse or a nurse practitioner who's started a coaching business, or perhaps you even launched your own practice because you wanted more freedom, right? And somehow you ended up working more than you actually did at your job, you didn't build the wrong business. You built the wrong model. And nobody is explaining the difference. Because what most nurses accidentally build isn't actually a business, it's a job that they now own. So let's first talk about what perhaps you thought private practice or owning your own coaching business would do or would provide, right? Because most think it's going to provide more freedom, more flexibility, better patient care, control of my schedule, my own thing, no burnout, right? But then in reality, what you have likely found is that you're constantly on, like you're always working, you're charting late at night. Like, where'd that come from? You're tied to your calendar. If you slow down or dare you take a day off, business dips, your income dips, right? Your mental and emotional load is heavier or perhaps like worse than what it was even at the hospital. So you didn't escape employment, you basically relocated it. I know, right? Like even your practice grew, but your life and your lifestyle didn't really change or didn't change in the manner in which you had hoped for. So why does this even happen, right? So I think first what's important to really break down and unpack is the difference between a traditional practice model or business model, or as I like to call it, a volume-based model versus a boutique practice model or boutique business model. Okay, so let's look at the difference here. When you're looking at a volume based model, which is our traditional healthcare model, right? It's your income is tied to the number of appointments, right? Many of you are seeing or expected to see 20 or more clients a day if you're in a traditional practice, right? It's insurance dependent or visit dependent, okay? Short visits, managing symptoms in and out, not really solving problems, more of a band-aid approach, right? You're managing meds. And again, you're in and out. Let's be clear, 7-minute visits if you're even lucky, right? So surface level care, exhaustion is absolutely inevitable. Some of you might even be experiencing burnout right now, or you see burnout quickly approaching on the horizon, right? That's the traditional model. That's what we've been taught. That's what's been modeled to us. So that's why we recreate it, even in our own businesses. Again, whether it's a coaching business or whether it's your actual brick and mortar practice, we've seen that, and so we recreate that, right? So then let's pivot a little bit and let's look at, okay, what is this boutique model practice that Charyse always talks about? Well, boutique, I'm so glad you asked. Boutique model practice, it's fewer people, fewer patients, fewer clients. It's deeper care. It's real healing, real transformation. It's not measured in minutes. Praise God for that, right? It's your income is not dependent on a daily head count or patient visit, whatever. Okay. The difference isn't how hard you're working, it's how your income is actually structured, right? In a volume model or volume based model, which is our traditional model that we're used to, you're paid for visits. Whereas in a boutique model, a boutique practice model, you're paid for outcomes. You're paid for real outcomes, real transformation. And I hear it all the time. This is why you became a nurse. This is why you became a nurse practitioner. This is why you decided to start your own thing, right? Here's the thing, we were all trained to deliver care, right? But nobody actually taught you how to design care for true healing. Okay. So I talked about insurance based model a second ago. So I think it's probably important that we actually kind of unpack that, like an insurance practice model, which again, it fully aligns with our traditional practice model, traditional business model, traditional volume based model versus one that is cash based, right? So let's look at the two. So when you have a insurance or a traditional model that's based in insurance, insurance requires a lot. When I say a lot, it's documentation, volume, patient turnover, so quick visits, like I mentioned before, standardized protocols, right? You feel the tightness, you feel the constraints. We're not going to talk about reimbursements because I don't want y'all to get mad at me, but you already know, right? The struggle, the frustration that comes with reimbursement, how much you're going to get reimbursed, if you're going to get reimbursed, and even when you're going to get reimbursed. I had a client tell me one time that she was owed $70,000 in reimbursements. And she was like, I don't even know if I'm going to get it, or if I am going to get it, I don't know when. Are you 70,000? 70,000. Yeah. Okay. So now let's look at the opposite, right? Let's look at a cash based model. And here's the thing, I'm not telling you that you have to not take insurance, although I would argue against it for so many reasons, including the ones in which I just named. But I could go on and on and on because it really does constrict you, it really does confine you, it really doesn't allow you to do what you really want to do. Right. But so when you're looking at a cash based model, you can certainly you can do a hybrid if you choose to. My business has always been cash based since the inception of my business, my holistic health coaching practice, like I said, since the inception. And it's definitely something that I strongly encourage. But at the end of the day, you can certainly do a hybrid model. But this is what I love so much about cash based models, right? Individualized care, precision medicine, or precision care, if you will. You can take your time educating, you can take your time coaching because you're not paid on that, right? You have the time to adequately follow up and follow through, right? It's true root cause work. You're literally doing what it is, like the reason why you really became a nurse or a nurse practitioner, right? You can't practice deep healing in a system that's designed for speed. It doesn't work. It's incongruent. Like they don't even it does it just it's not possible. The system, if you will, measures productivity by how many people you see, right? Your patients, on the other hand, your clients measure healing by how deeply you understand them and the level of healing and transformation you can provide. That's a big difference. That is a big difference. And that is a huge difference between, again, insurance based, which is congruent with a traditional model, and cash based, which is really congruent with a boutique model. Okay. Listen, let me just share with you. I have a client, a nurse practitioner, and she came to me already, in business. She has a brick and mortar, doing around 10 to sometimes 12,000, a little inconsistent there, but her baseline was around 10,000. Now, granted, she had a lot of expenses, right? Because she has a brick and mortar and staff and all the overhead that you would expect with a brick and mortar. She was used to high volume because, again, that's what's been modeled to all of us. That's what we expect. Oh, 500 patients, right? So she was used to high volume. She unfortunately was used to undercharging, which I see so much, undercharging for her brilliance, undercharging for her expertise, undercharging for the transformation that she really was providing. She was exhausted, as you can imagine. Right. So going back to those 7-minute visits, if you're lucky, right? She felt guilty. So when we talk about pricing, she felt really guilty about even raising her prices, which again, I see a lot, not just with nurses and nurse practitioners. I see it across the board, even with the physicians that I work with. Right. She was still helping people, but again, it was very tight. And when I say tight, I'm not even mentioning financially. I'm not really referring to financially, but what I'm mentioning is the pressure that she was walked into every day, and not just walked into, in her brick and mortar. She carried it with her throughout the day, went at home, right? Because she was always on. She was charting at home late at night. So again, you know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, right? So what changed? What changed when she came to work with me? The first thing we did, we kind of just took a step back, and I asked her, what is it that you really want to create? What is number one, what life and lifestyle, what type of life and lifestyle do you want to have? And then also, what do you want your business to not only look like, but feel like? How do you want to feel day to day? Not pressured, not tense, not stressed, not any of that, right? And so we started there. That was the starting point. And then we shifted how she was practicing, right? We shifted to a high touch offer, a high transformation offer, right? Which allowed her to see fewer clients. We adjusted her pricing commensurate with the level of transformation that she was providing. I want you to think lifetime value, like what's the lifetime value of the transformation that you're providing? Again, deeper transformation. So we got her to stop undercharging for her expertise and her transfer and the transformation she provided. Let me just tell you, she went from, again, when she started working with me, she was around 10,000 a month. She went to in less than 3 months, her revenue increased to 50,000 a month. Did you hear me? So from 10,000 to 50,000 a month in less than 3 months of us working together. Yeah, nothing about her knowledge changed. Nothing. Nothing about her compassion changed. Nothing. The only thing that changed was the model. It was the business model. And that literally changed everything. You want to talk about peace? You want to talk about fulfillment? That is, and I'm guessing that's what you're here to provide. That's what not only what you're here to experience, but that's what you're also here to provide. Am I right? Or am I right? Yeah. All right. So here's the thing, you were never meant to manage 500 plus patients. That's an outdated business model. You were meant to guide, to lead, to teach, to follow up, actually heal at a deeper level, provide healing, facilitate healing at a deeper level. So you don't need more patients. You need the right structure. You don't need 500 plus patients. You need the right 10. More appointments doesn't automatically mean more impact. In fact, I would argue the opposite. Less appointments, less patients means that you can go even deeper with your impact. Okay. If your income stops, I really need y'all to get this. If your income stops when you stop working, when you step away, God forbid you take a day off, a week off, right? Then you still have a job. You still have a job, even though you own the business. Okay. And y'all, I get it because I've been on both sides. I've done it the traditional way. When I first launched my holistic health coaching business, again, I'm thinking volume, volume, volume. And I was burnt out. I was stressed out. Thankfully, I recognized it very, very early on. Right. So this is not theory. This is my lived experience, not just my lived experience, but the experience of so many of the nurses, pretty much all the nurses and nurse practitioners that I've worked with that have come to me because they wanted that shift, because they wanted that peace, because they wanted to be able to practice in a way that was truly congruent with who they were as a person, as a nurse, as a provider, but then also that was congruent with the lifestyle that they've always envisioned for themselves and for their families, right? You want to talk about peace? The difference isn't like I just really wanted to drive this home. The difference isn't just in income. Yes, that is a huge difference. Okay. Because you can have the traditional model as we all know it, hustle and bustle, stress, pressured, confined, constricted. And let's say 200,000. Okay, 200K. Great. Or you can lean into a boutique practice model. Deeper transformation, fewer patients, cash based model, freedom, peace, and still make 200K and more for sure. But just think about the difference in that. If you're going to make, if you're going to, and it's not all about the money, and I get that, but let's face it, we all need money. Like none of us work for free. Let's be clear, right? So if you're going to make the same amount of money, and this, for my example, I just use 200,000 because that's pretty, average. If you have a profitable brick and mortar business, right? It's more than what you were making as a nurse or a nurse practitioner at the bedside or whatever. So 200,000. So if you're going to make 200,000, for instance, how would you rather do it? Using in the traditional model or using a boutique business model, right? And again, it's scalable. Okay, so don't get it twisted. You can scale this all the way to a million and beyond. But again, it's a different business model. So I will say this, if this episode felt maybe a little too accurate, maybe it hit a little too close to home, perhaps I pissed you off a little bit. I don't know. Maybe you're a little bit activated right now. You're exactly who I created something for. I literally created something for you. I created a practice growth quiz that shows you what part of your practice is working or what part of your business is working, and then what part is quietly keeping you trapped, like quietly sucking the life out of your soul. Okay, it takes like 2 minutes. It's super direct, super to the point. Takes 2 minutes. I'm going to link it down below in the show notes because you don't have to continue operating in the manner in which you're operating. Which again, if you're not on the verge of burnout, you can see burnout. You can see how you could very quickly be in burnout, right? You don't have to stay there. You just need a different way to do it. You just need a different way to practice. So take the quiz below. And as always, I love you. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time on another episode of The Charyse Williams Show. Bye for now.